All right, welcome to the Diesel Daddy Podcast. This is Nick the Dolldozer Dollins and my partner across the street from me, Mr. Joshua Long. Say hi, Josh.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming in. We have an episode for you. We are here to help stretch that mind and bring in an expansion of consciousness.
Some conscious yoga, baby. Stretch it out and get loose, because we're gonna make you think.
Nice.
Put some good stuff in your brain. So, little update, man. Now we're getting this podcast really up and going. You're reeling from a epic vacation that you do very regularly. So let's just dive straight into that, man. Tell me what you did and why is such a profound thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what Mr. Dolldozer here is speaking of is the Groove Cruise. I just got back from this beautiful vacation. I go every single year. It's every January. I definitely suggest everybody to Google Groove Cruise and check it out. But basically, it's a 4-day floating EDM music festival on a cruise ship. And it's just the most incredible experience that you've ever had. It's literally life-altering. And, the ship's decked out. This costume themes day and night. There's over 11 stages throughout the ship. 4,000 people this year was on this ship. And, one of the things that it really brings to me is an opportunity to surround myself with the frequency of love. Some of the best ways to kind of build a picture of it, it's like Woodstock on a cruise ship with EDM music, a very diverse range of EDM music. It's not just one type. It's from house music to bass to, disco, DJing, any type of music that you think of. And it's kind of what brought forth our topics tonight that, we wanted to kind of speak on. And one of them was learning about what this reality is made of and what we're in and how do we function within it, because a lot of people...
So you mean reality just by literally the world that we're living in?
The world that we live in, right? This experience that we're having right now. What is it and what's our involvement in it? And that was kind of like the main topic of just about every conversation that we had on the ship. And so some of the topics that we're going to go through tonight are going to be, what is this reality made of? One, okay. Mm-hmm. The second topic is going to be, what is the remote control? How do we utilize, what is the remote control, and how do we utilize the remote control to be able to function and manifest properly in this world, in this realm or reality? The third topic is going to be how to align the different buttons or the different actions of the remote control, right? Okay. And how we utilize those to properly manifest. And so I'm going to kind of keep it simple and just keep it on those three topics. And, let's dive into the first topic. What is this world made of?
Yeah, let's just make this... I mean, that's just a one-word answer, obviously. It can't get any more simple than that. No, so yeah, I would say it really just depends on who you're asking, and there's so many different, we're obviously going to step on every single religious zealot's toes, talking about this, which really shouldn't be the case, and I would say a lot of, what I've come to believe, just spiritually and stuff, and reading different religions, that none of these religious doctrines disagree with each other. They're all saying the same thing. So basically segueing into that, like, what do you think this reality is, and explain to us, kind of how we're going to dip our toe into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a couple different concepts we're just going to kind of bring forth, right? The idea is to bring forth multiple concepts that then begin to open the mind, and through these realizations, you begin to understand and comprehend what it is that we're actually doing. And so one of the first concepts is everything is energy, right? I think we've all heard that term, that everything in this world, in this reality or realm or dimension, right? Whatever word we want to use to describe it, is made of energy. And if everything is made of energy and there's nothing but energy, well, then everything is connected, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? And so we can say, just for simple terms, we'll just call it the universe, okay? Uni, one, verse, right? Is all made out of energy, and we are a part of that energy. Now let's dive in to a little bit deeper level. Okay, what is the energy made of? Okay, well, the energy is made of light and sound frequency. Now, the light and the sound frequency, they vibrate at different rates. Okay, so the different frequencies of light and sound that are vibrating make up the different objects within this world. And so, for example, us as humans, we vibrate a very specific frequency, and that vibration of energy compiles itself down into a body, right, which is an avatar essentially. And then we as spirit, right, we animate, we bring light into that body to animate it and to be able to move through it and experience the other energy in the world. So a table, for example, is just a specific rate of frequency and vibration. It's light and sound frequency that vibrates in the form of a table or a chair or a car or the planets, right? Or the wildlife, the trees, nature. Everything has its own vibrational frequency, but everything is connected in this field of energy called the quantum field, okay? Or, they've also termed it as the Higgs particle, is what this light and sound frequency that's fluctuating in and out of the field. They call it the Higgs particle, or for easier terms, just the quantum field. And so there is only a pool of energy, or there is only the quantum field. And within the quantum field, everything vibrates into different frequencies that creates all these different objects that we get to see and experience and play with. Mm-hmm. Are we following?
Following.
Okay, good. So the first topic is what is this realm? Well, this realm is an energy realm, okay? And it's a energy realm that is experiencing a third density experience that is graduating into a fourth density experience. Okay.
For anybody who might not know exactly what you just said, give me like a one sentence definition of what third density means to you.
Absolutely. And so every form of energy gets to experience every level of density. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the different levels of density, from starting at level 1, first density, is just a density of beingness, right? And so we could say air, fire, water, elements, right?
Yep.
That would be a first density experience or incarnation. Mm-hmm. And we've all been there, and we'll get into incarnation later. We'll stay on topic. Then the second, when you graduate into the second density, this is going to be nature. This is going to be plant life, biology. This is going to be animal life, the animal kingdom, the fungi kingdom, right? And we experience every form and fashion of that density as well. Now, the third density is the density of becoming aware of oneself, right? And the density of duality or polarity, right? Which means there's an up and a down, there's a left and a right, there's two sides to the coin, right? And
that are seemingly opposite of
each other, but are internally connected through the energy. You can't have one without the other. You can't have light without dark, and you can't have dark without light, right? And that's kind of what the whole yin-yang of life represents, that it's within the circle. Everything is connected within energy. You have both light and dark, and within the light you have dark, and within the dark you have the light.
And you can't have one without the other.
You can't have one without the other, because if one's missing, then there's nothing. Okay? And so third density is this density of duality and polarity. And what that does is when we entered into this planet, into planet Earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, we all started out in third density planet, okay, in third density avatars or bodies, okay? And through the polarity and through the duality, we begin to experience ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay? What we like, what we don't like, what we think we are, what we think we're not. Right? Well, as we get to the higher octaves or levels, if you will, of third density, and we begin to graduate and move into the fourth density, right, we begin to unify in singularity. Okay? And so to graduate from third density, you have to become aware that this is a dual reality and that you're not actually what you think you are. We're not the bodies. We're not this world. We're not the things in the world. But we're here to experience those things. Okay? And so that would be like a third density reality. The fourth density reality is the reality of singularity and the reality of love. Okay?
Okay.
And so we are all in this beautiful transition of Mother Earth. We're riding on her back as she's graduating into the fourth density. If we can vibrate at the frequency of love, which is like 400 hertz, we will make the graduation with her. Okay, and so that's kind of just a quick scale from 1 to 4. Now the dimensions continue to go on, but we don't want to make too much confusion right now. We just kind of want to set the parameters of the field and the game, okay? Or we could call this a simulation to make it easy, right? This realm is a simulation of energy that we're learning how to manipulate in a positive or negative way. And so let's get back to talking about this field, this quantum field, okay? And let's bring back the yin-yang, the circle, and how everything inside of that circle is connected, all right? Imagine the planet as that. Everything in the planet, all the stars actually, all the galaxies, everything we can observe and see, it's all connected in this one energy, which we're now going to call from here on out the field, okay, the quantum field. So if we know that everything is this quantum field, we could also label that as the game board. Okay, and so this is a game, a simulation that we're playing, and it's made out of this quantum field, this field of infinite energy. Okay, what we think is space between us is actually filled with infinite amounts of energy, light, and frequency. There is actually no space in between us. It's all filled with energy because it is the field. And the field is the universe that is intelligently manifesting everything in our experience and everything in our life. Okay? And so now that we understand that we're in this game, we're in this simulation, and it's all energy, right? We want to understand, how do we play the game? What is the controller of the game? What are the buttons? And how do we utilize a rhythm of the controller to help produce a more desirable experience?
So this be like manifesting?
Manifesting,
I guess.
absolutely. How do we manifest, right? And so let's talk about the controller, right? Or the instrument, right? You can play the controller, you can play the instrument. Well, that controller or the instrument is the body, is the avatar, okay? And this controller utilizes our thoughts, right? Which would be like the blueprint for what we ask for, okay? Our emotions, which is like the boost or the drive that sends the blueprint or our thoughts into the field. The more emotion behind the thought gives a more direct and precise and detailed message for the field to then return that to us. Because if we remember, everything's energy, and whatever action we make via our thoughts or emotions, there will be an equal and opposite return of that from the universe, okay? Or the field, the quantum field. Also, our actions, what we physically do, is also another button on the controller, okay? And then our imagination, right? Our imagination, what we can image and create mentally, is another button. So you have your thoughts, we have our imagination, which is mapping or creating imagery of things. We have our emotions, which would be happiness, love, anger, depression, willingness. We have all these different vibrational scales, and maybe we can pop up a Hawkins vibrational scale in this video, which kind of gives you a picture of the different emotions and then what hertz those emotions vibrate at. Okay? And so we've got our emotions, we got our thoughts, we have our imagination, and then we have our action. What does our body actually do in this world physically, or what we think is physical? Okay, so that's the controller, right, within the field. The controller is actually made of the field, and everything is connected. And what we give out, we're going to receive back. And so what we want to begin to understand and realize is, how do we align the controller in a way that accurately produces or manifests what it is we're wanting to experience? Does that all kind of make sense?
Yep. So, yeah, from summarizing that, obviously we have the reality and the controller being your mind. How do we operate through that?
Okay.
In the simplest
Yeah.
form.
Yeah. How do we properly act, think, do, and have emotion to manifest the desired experience, right? Because everything is just an experience.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the goal of all that would be to graduate into fourth density.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the goal is to be in the present moment, right? We're all on what's called the ascension, right? Which is the leveling up of these densities. And within each density, there's all these different experiences that we have. And we learn lessons. It's kind of like a soul evolutionary journey, right? Because our soul is much greater than this little body that's here in this realm. Okay, and so we're learning lessons through these different densities that level our soul up, that gets us closer to God, right? Which we never leave God, because we're all made of God. There is only God. God is the only thing that is, that ever will be, or that ever has been, right? It's just the concept of God most people have is that there's some being outside of us ruling over us, when in reality we are that being. And God is experiencing itself through our experience and through each and every one of us. So God gets to experience everything infinitely in all these unique expressions all simultaneously. Right? So I sometimes God is a word that people still have an attachment to, and we're going to work through letting go of these attachments, but let's just call it source energy.
Okay.
Right? Because everything is made of energy. Everything's made of God, right? So we can call that source energy. And so within this source energy, we begin to break down the faculties, the higher faculties that we were given, blessed with divinely, to be able to utilize in this realm, in this field or frequency, to have experiences of a very high nature, a very high vibrational nature, which would be things that make us happy, things that make us feel connected, things that bring love into our body, and then into our families, and then into our experience, right? And so it comes to understanding the controller, which we know. We understand the field is going to give us what we put out, right? And so now let's talk about the emotion part of the controller.
Yeah. So, I'd say the majority of people say that they can't control their emotions. They might be able to control a slight environment around them, but emotions feel uncontrollable thing that you just experience depending on something that's happening outside of you. So yeah, how do you think that you can are able to gain control of that? You hear a lot of just gurus and stuff talking about being able to control your mind and your emotions through kind of force and repetition of disciplines. Now bring some spirituality into that.
Okay. So the first notation, right, and these are things that as we conversate, we're going to point out what we're saying and how maybe we can say something a little bit different. And so what you had just asked me is most people don't know how to control their emotions, right? Well, control right? You can only control something if there's something there to control. Okay?
Okay.
So, and if there's something there to control, well, then we believe that there's something separate from us. Okay? If we are a unified field of energy and there is no separation between us and this foresaid emotion we're trying to control, well, then maybe it's just letting go of the idea that I need to control something. Okay? And that would be the first step, is letting go of the idea that we need to control or we need to change something. All right? And realize that emotions are something that we cultivate. Okay? Now, a lot of people are going to go, well, I'm in a pretty tough spot in my life. Things are always happening to me that don't, work out, and I can't make any money, and I'm always depressed, right?
Yeah, so real world example on that. Let's say, husband's cheating on me. How do you control that emotion?
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
gain control, or what does that look like on a...
Okay, yeah, and that's a real dense one to get into right off the bat. But, okay, this is a good example, okay?
That's a real emotion that feels like I just experienced this traumatic thing outside of me that I can't control how I feel. Just a deep pain, traumatic pain.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of break down what my pathway of steps were to get to where I'm at.
Okay.
Right? That have helped me arrive at a place to where things are just manifesting in every moment for me.
Preach.
And so... Step number 1, okay, you have to control the blueprint. And the blueprint is the thought, or the repetitive words and sentences that repeat over and over and over and over and over and over in my head about something that's going on outside of me, which there is nothing outside of you, but we're going to just get real simple here, and we're going to start with separation, and then we're going to move into singularity. Okay, so let's predate the husband cheating on the wife. Okay. Now, there was more than likely an attachment that the couple was having prior to the situation manifesting. Okay. Now, those thoughts were maybe, well, you don't love me anymore, or you don't care about me. You're going to go out and you're going to party with your friends and you're going to do this, right?
Even add to that, if that wasn't even happening, just the woman thinking that in her head, being insecure about it.
The blueprint.
And almost subconsciously thinking about it.
Exactly. It's the blueprint you're giving out, right? Which is the thought. And so how do we manifest something? Well, we give a blueprint, which is the thought. If the thought is repetitively in a lower vibrational frequency of no trust, or cheat, you're going to cheat on me, or jealousy, that's a big one, right? Jealousy and judgment, right? I think, in my head, I'm creating these ideas that my girlfriend or boyfriend's going to go out and meet somebody else, and they're going to party, and they'll always leave me at home, right? Well, you're telling the universe to give you that. Because the blueprint is the first thing that we have to correct. So, and it's not necessarily correcting, it's letting go. Okay, this is the secret. Step 1 is letting go of all thoughts within the head, within the mind. Okay? Now some people go, what do you mean, let go of the thoughts in my mind? My mind is always running, and there's a million voices in there, always going left and right and repeating things over and over and over to me. All right, well, first step now is that you're aware that those voices are there and they're not your voice.
Oh, interesting.
That's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
The voices in my head are not my voice.
Okay. I'm going to break that down.
Yeah. So they are simply light and sound frequencies that I open myself to via the emotion I'm vibrating at. So if I'm angry, there's going to be thoughts that match that anger.
Yep.
If I'm depressed, that's a different frequency than anger. Then there's going to be a different frequency of thought patterns that I open myself up to that come in. Now, as those thoughts are coming in, I think that I'm a human, and I think those are my thoughts. So I begin to attach to them. and I attach to them by repeating them over and over in my head. And so step number 1 is realizing the thoughts I think are not my thoughts, right? And I can sit here and observe those thoughts versus being the thought, right? If I'm the thought, well, then I think that the whole world's out for me, and I think that I'm going to get cheated on. If I realize that I'm not the thought, I'm now observing these thoughts about someone cheating on me, or I'm observing the thoughts about, the world being against me, but I'm no longer in the timeline. I've shifted my attention to a third person perspective, or move myself into the judge seat in the courtroom, and I'm now watching the voices contend with each other. That's kind of the first transition, right, of letting go, is becoming aware that the thoughts are not my thoughts, then moving into a third person perspective to just sit there neutrally and observe the thoughts as they come in. So when a thought of depression comes in, I no longer get into a depressed state. I just realize that there's depressing thoughts there. Okay, and that's moving out of the driver's seat into the third person perspective. Okay, as you move into this perspective and you begin to become aware and place your attention on these things, right, you begin to illuminate. One of the things that I do, there's many things out of the Bible that I like, right? There's a lot of things. There's just a lot of things we're going to talk about that kind of really open our minds to what most people think the Bible is. But one of the things that is said in there is that the eyes are the lamps of the body. Okay, we have 3 eyes. We have 2 physical eyes, and we have a third eye, which is our spiritual eye. Okay, and so the only way I can place the lamps of the body on the thoughts is if I use my spiritual eye, my third eye, and I look at those thoughts as they're coming in. Okay, and so what I'm doing is I'm illuminating those thought patterns, right? Versus blindly being consumed by them, and utilizing and attaching with these 2 eyeballs to everything out here, giving reason to why that's happening to me. But it's not happening to you, it's happening for you to become aware of something that is distorted inside of you, of energy that's distorted inside of you. We've lived many lifetimes, and again, we're going to get into incarnation later.
Yeah, that's a whole nother...
But each incarnation, right, we carry distorted energy from other lifetimes into this lifetime in hopes of our experience illuminating those distortions, giving us an opportunity to balance the energy, right? The number 1 rule of the universe is it always has to create balance. Always, no matter what. It has to create balance. If one thing in this entire experience was out of balance, it would all disappear. Okay? The second rule of the universe is the rule of free will. The free will in the moment when something appears or an experience happens to choose how we think, act, emotionalize it, and what actions we take in place of it. And so step number 1 is letting go of that mind. And to let go of the mind, we first have to move from the driver's seat of being the thought to the third person perspective, to becoming aware and illuminating those thoughts and realizing that they're just not me. Those aren't my thoughts. Okay? Some mantras that I utilized, 1,000 times a day, maybe, for 5-6 years before I really got to the place that I'm at, is when a negative thought comes in, or a depressive thought, or an angry thought, really any thought of judgment, when you label something, I would realize that thought came in. Oh, there it is. I'm judging that person. I just called him fat in my head. And I just in my head was like, thank God I'm not ugly like that. That's a judgment. And those thoughts, boom, they come in real fast. Well, as soon as that thought comes in, I go, oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. And that reflection of me, which is that thing outside that we're labeling, right? It's actually just a reflection. Everything outside is just a reflection of what we have inside, right? It's all the field, internally and externally. So a negative thought comes in. I realize that thought has come in. I'm illuminating it with my third eye. And I say the mantra, I'm sorry. You know what? Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then the next mantra I say is, this is just a hologram. This is just an illusion. It's all just energy. And that's not my truth. My truth is love. My truth is compassion. My truth is perfection in all manners.
Yep.
And I'm so thankful that I get to spend time with this reflection of me right now. Right? That correction, right? Which I don't like to say correction because we're not correcting. We're just stating our being. We're stating our frequency, right? And what we're doing is we're conditioning a new frequency, a new level of vibration.
You know what? To that, like, why does it feel, in your opinion, that there's, things always trying to bring you down, vibration? If someone is always trying to, let's say hearing this right now, and let's say they are realizing their thoughts and patterns have been toxic to where they're trying to be, and they're trying to remanifest and gain control of their mind, and it feels like there's just a force just pulling you down all the time, from either wherever you put yourself in life, or you just can't get ahead, or something always bringing you down. So, it sounds simple that we're here talking about it, but real life application can be extremely difficult, and it seems like years of sustaining this type of thing to gain peace in your mind. How would you talk to somebody who's going through that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things to have a realization about is that when we're born into this realm, right, we are products of our environment. Okay? There is a science called epigenetics. Okay?
I don't think I've heard of that.
And what epigenetics is, right, we have a genome, right, which is our DNA. It's basically what creates us and what creates the experience that we experience. So the way that the genome works with epigenetics is they have figured out, and again, look into this, epigenetics. They have realized that our skin, right, when something happens to us in this external world, okay, the body is experiencing that signal, and that signal moves first through the skin. The skin is like its own brain, and that's another conversation because it's deep. It sends it to the cells, okay, the signal, right? So say I'm having a horrible experience, husband just cheated on me, right? I'm now depressed, okay? Well, and now I have thoughts of anger and jealousy and hate, right? Well, that our environment is the field. And so if I'm experiencing hate, depression, and something bad happening, I'm sending a signal to the cell, and then the cell takes that signal and it takes it into the nuclei, and within the nuclei it takes it to the chromosome, and then that signal activates the genome to give it more of that, because that's what we're asking for. So what they found through epigenetics is that our environment controls the expression of our genes or our DNA. So let's talk about free will again. When something happens, you can't control what happens in the moment, but what you can control is how you perceive that environment. So although something negative just happened to me, instead of the environment, right, which I can create through my imaginative faculties and feelings and emotions, instead of being depressed and jealous and attaching hate and greed, I say, oh, wait a second, this is not me. I thank you for this experience. I'm learning from this. I appreciate you, and I appreciate this experience. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And this is like the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, I'm so grateful that I am being awakened by this energy to allow me to have a better experience. And so in that moment of free will, I shifted the environment. And by shifting the environment, I send a new signal to the cell. and the cell sends a new signal to the chromosome, and the chromosome selects a new gene that matches that frequency. And then that gene begins to express itself through my energy. Okay, so products of our environment is where we started this, because you said, well, like if someone's just been completely pulled down and conditioned to this, when we're born as a soul, we are all asleep. Okay, and the only thing that we know we are is what we're taught by our parents, our friends, our environment, the TV, social media, right? What others are doing and what we're observing around us, right? And so it's not your fault that you are where you're at, and we need to first realize that this is not my fault, right? But once I realize that, it now becomes my responsibility.
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not my fault, but it's now my responsibility. Okay. And so it doesn't matter what's happened to you up until this now moment. All that matters is, what environment are you creating with your controller right now to experience something different?
That's awesome. We talked about this a little bit before. Like you had said, like what the experience that you're having right now and like what you're living are things that you manifested years ago, not even thinking about it. And what you choose to think about and right now in your head is what you're manifesting years from now. You're already living a life that you thought about way before. And if you really look at anything in your life at all, like you were just saying, it's all after you realize it's not your fault, then all of a sudden, instantly, everything becomes your fault. And when you realize that everything in life is actually your fault, you start manifesting something different today. And taking on that responsibility to do that is what's going to put you in a place where you want to be in the world that your imaginary world, your perfect little playground land, or whatever you want to manifest for yourself, But it starts with your mind, and what you choose to accept into it today, and controlling your thoughts, or where in 5 years from now what's going to be, and it's not going to happen instantly. So.
Absolutely. And another thing too with manifestation, everything happens in a spiral. Okay. And so imagine yourself walking on this spiral, right? And now you're elevating levels, right? But it seems like you continue to come back to the same experience over and over and over. Okay. And so it's important to understand in manifestation that however far we spiraled into the vibration of depression, right, which is a lower frequency, right, it's going to take a little bit of time to manifest consistently.
Yeah, if you got 10 years of depressing thoughts,
exactly,
that's a big hole to dig out of.
And today I realize that I'm an infinite being, and I start loving myself, right? Well, in a couple hours, I might run across something that's going to tell me every reason why I don't love myself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how it works.
Yep.
And so when we awaken, right, we awaken to who we are and what's going on, and start realizing that we are in control of everything that experiences through our experience. We now have opportunities to let go of the frequencies that we are not. Okay. We are already naturally the highest vibrational love that is manifested by source energy. We're already that. But we've held on to these attachments or suitcases or anchors, right, of depression or anger or judgment or why I think this or why I think that, which holds us down like a anchor in the water, right, into these lower experiences. And so when we wake up, and I begin to love myself, and I begin to love others, and I begin to forgive myself, and I begin to forgive others, and I start realizing that I'm judging things, and when I judge something, hey, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I start correcting those things, right? Instead of being selfish and trying to hold on to things because I think there's a limited source of that thing. And then I begin to give, and I begin to realize abundance surrounds me, right? These are all transitions that we begin to let go of who we are not, and we begin to realize who we actually are. And so let's talk about the spiral again. When we begin to realize who we actually are, then the universe is going to go ahead and bring up all the reasons why we are not, to give us an opportunity to let go of it. Okay? And so when you first begin to manifest, things will actually get rougher. Right? When you first wake up, things get crazy. And really can just start shitting cats and dogs on you in a real wild way.
Yep.
And
I think anybody can relate with that one.
And so that's a good telltale sign that if things are starting to get crazy, like you're doing the right thing, right? And so can you hold the frequency of no judgment and hold the frequency of love and compassion? And can you let go of all the thought patterns that are trying to weigh you back down or give you the reason why you're not an absolute being of love, right? And what we'll notice in that spiral, that as we come back to the experience, fewer and farther in between do these so-called negative experiences happen. And so you reeled yourself way down into the low densities, and so through being consistent and holding your vibrational frequency, you start to move back up the spiral versus down the spiral. And so you are going to see residual happenings of the old you, right? And each time that those things come up, you now have an opportunity to go, oh, thank you for showing up and allowing me to be aware of what I am not. You know, and I love you, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I am so grateful for this experience now. And so you're observing it, you're illuminating it, you're projecting high frequencies of love and gratitude towards it, and that begins to disassemble. That old energy begins to break down or dissolve into nothingness, essentially. And so step number 1, becoming aware that the thoughts are not your thoughts. Step number 2 is realizing that you have the ability to correct those thoughts with thoughts of higher vibrational frequency. And then step 3 is creating silence in between the thoughts. How long can I create a state of no words, no thoughts, no judgments, nothing, and shift my attention from what I think is going on in my head to feeling through my 5 senses and only experiencing this now moment? And so you shift into that, and now you're at a very high vibrational frequency, and the spiral is going to produce every reason of why you are not. So things are going to get hectic. But as those experiences come along, each time you have an opportunity to become aware that that's not you, and that you love you and you love everyone out from you, and you're going to let go of the judgment of that. And to let go of a judgment is to let go of the repetitive thought cycle about that thing.
That's awesome, man. That's a great way to answer the question: how did somebody get ahead of the hole that they've dug themselves out of? You know, and you said before to me, you know, when, like I say, you decide to start manifesting a better future for yourself, but you still got to learn those lessons of all the shit that brought you down, you know. And the more you push away from a lesson that you were supposed to be learning in this life, the stronger it's going to come back to you. Because it comes back stronger, you're going to have to push it away stronger, then it's going to come back. It's the spiral until you just face it, whatever you're dealing with, and just own up to what you have to do to become a better person, to let it go. You're always going to face those problems, and it'll always drive you back down to what you're trying to climb back out of. So
yeah, this is great. This is
great stuff there.
So this is, you know, we're really just kind of tapping into mental concepts and ideas of how the workings are going on and how we can act in this thing, right? There's also other teachings that we're not going to get in deep to, but I just kind of want to shout out them if you're interested to go look in them. There's a Dr. Sue Morter, fantastic lady. She wrote a book called The Energy Codes, and it goes all into how to move past the concept of things and objects and move your attention internally to your energy. Now, there is a way to work with that energy or those distortions that are causing these negative experiences that you can practice through breath work, through meditation, through all these different practices, which we'll get into more conversations in later podcasts about that. Because right now we're being real we're going to start in the separateness and these ideas and concepts, and then we're going to move into singularity and energy. And because one of the things in the universe is, first you have the opportunity to internalize the distortion and to bring and illuminate that distortion. If we haven't quite learned those techniques, well, then the reality has to produce those energies outside of us for us to experience, to have an opportunity there to let go of it and show compassion. And so it's a mirror reflection of our inside energy and our outside energy. And there's two opportunities, both internally and externally, that we can utilize. And so right now we're just kind of talking about external things that we can become aware of and how we can change our thought process and our emotions and literally shift the environment to begin expressing a new DNA sequence within us. And once we activate those new genes through the new love that we're seeing, and we're letting go of the judgment, so since there's no more judgment, that's a new environmental signal. Once those genes are fully activated, well, then the subconscious takes over and begins producing those loving experiences for you with effortlessly, which is really cool. And again, that's epigenetics. That's definitely something you want to look up to, read into. It's real easy. Bruce Lipton is another one. The Biology of Life is a great source for that. If you want to look into that, he gets really easy to understand in the way he breaks down everything for you on that. But yeah, so that is kind of step one, is the thought process, the blueprint. And
what does that look like for people? So I would say, whatever you're dealing through, if you're trying to manifest a good relationship because you've been through some shit with some hoe bags, what does that look like? You start thinking about, what you want, and you feel like you're ready to be in that relationship, but you're just feel alone because you can't find the right person. Now, maybe God is actually just bringing you to that lonely place so you can actually face that demon right there, and you're lonely for a lot longer because you're not facing what it is that God's trying to teach you.
Or you want to be lonely.
And you keep pushing it away. And like we were just saying, the harder you push something away, the more the universe is going to bring it back to you before you can actually step into the reality that you're manifesting. I mean, that could be anything from a job. Maybe you're stuck in that dead-end job and you can't get up and you feel like you're ready to go, but you really haven't accepted peace from where you're at and you don't know how to move past it. There's a lesson there that's keeping you from where you want to go, and you'll never get to where you want to go until you face the bullshit that you created for yourself to begin with.
Mm-hmm. You learn to love that bullshit.
You learn to love it. And you realize that there's nothing any different up to where you're trying to go. There's just the same stuff at different levels, and you're going to have the same problems up there that you are down here, and any level of manifestation that you think you're going to get that's going to make you happier is just a lie. And until you can find peace with whatever negative thing that you're dealing with right now and then realize it's actually not a negative thing at all, then you'll be able to move into a more light of a situation that you're actually trying to create.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's talk about peace. What is peace? Peace is silence.
Yeah.
Peace is being, not thinking, right? And so that was a great example, right? Every relationship I am, they're always hoe bags.
Everybody cheats on me.
Everybody cheats on me, right? Well,
good women left.
In that moment right there, you're telling the universe, here's my blueprint. This is what I am.
You're literally saying everybody cheats on me. You're creating that reality.
Exactly.
The universe doesn't know your emotional stance behind what you're saying.
Absolutely.
They're just hearing the absolute words you're creating.
And you're definitely feeling some type of way when you're saying it, and that's the emotional drive for the universe to give me more of it. Right?
Yep.
And so how do I manifest a relationship that is different than that? Okay, well, here's what I did, right? And then here's what I do. In my mind, in my beingness, I look at all the things that I'm saying. I'm always alone. I always feel like maybe there's just something missing in my relationship. Maybe it's trust, okay? Well, what I do in my mind is first I taught myself how to silence that, right? That's the first step, is letting go. The thought forms of that is an addiction. You're addicted to being alone, so you continue to create the blueprint and emotional drive to produce that for you. So you got to realize, oh, hey, maybe I'm just addicted to this lifestyle, this experience. But that's not me anymore. Okay, this is what I tell myself. That's not me. That's not my reality, right? I am 100% filled and expressed with the love of all that is. Okay? I love myself. I begin to repeat those words. I am full, healthy, and all is well and balanced within me. Every relationship that I have, from intimate to friendly to work, is perfect exactly how it is. Okay? And I move, once I start saying these affirmations for 10, 15 minutes, right? I start to move into this vibrational frequency that matches that, right? Because it works in both tandems. If I get into a depressed emotion, I open myself to depressive thoughts. Well, if I create loving thoughts, I begin to move into a loving emotion. Okay, it works both ways. And then once you learn the emotion, you can just cultivate the emotion, and then you open yourself to those level of thoughts. Works both ways. And so I start moving myself into this frequency of love. I am love. I am so grateful. I am abundant. Everyone around me is always supporting me and bringing great ideas and energy to my environment. And then once I get into that state, I begin to let go of all thoughts, because the surrender is in the silence, right? We've all heard, like, just hand it over to God. Just give it to God. God will take care of it for you. And that's what God's doing, is taking care of exactly what you're asking him. But when I let go of all the thoughts, I move from a state of separation into a state of singularity. Okay? Which is silence, which would also be peace. And peace is a very high vibrational frequency. And so I move from negative thoughts into positive affirmations, and I continue the positive affirmations and the breathing and the meditation, right, all in the same time. And after a time period, I begin to feel better, right? And when I begin to feel better, I then let go of all the thoughts. I move into a complete state of silence, and I can just feel my whole body. I place my attention on my body. And once I achieve this state, which is a state of silence and a state of feeling and a state of unification, right, I then begin to use my imagination, okay? I imagine the most beautiful woman in the world reaching out and grabbing my hand. I imagine her and I on a dance floor, gracefully moving about the dance floor. And I have the biggest smile on my face. And I can feel myself wrapping my arms around her and us kissing and loving each other.
Get emotional right now.
Right? I imagine I can move my mind into the kitchen of my beautiful home that I've created, and I see beautiful children running and laughing, and I see us sitting on the balcony in a swing, and I just tell myself, thank you so much. I'm just so grateful for this, and I'm so beautifully graced and blessed with the most beautiful soul in all the world that is here to provide for me and support me and love me and challenge me and give me opportunities to grow on such a beautiful level. And so I've moved from depressive thoughts to positive affirmations. The positive affirmations has moved my energy into a higher frequency of love. Once my higher frequency of love is there, I silence all the thoughts and I sit in the silence of the feeling of the frequency. And then once I've spent time there, I use my imagination to create a new image, a new environment. And that new environment and that new image brings new emotions that come with it. And I start feeling these new emotions, and what am I doing? I'm creating a new environmental signal that is sending it to the cells, sending it to the chromosomes, and selecting new genes to begin expressing to give me more of what I'm doing.
And you know what I think is an important part of that, talking about stopping the negative thoughts and attachments you have to that, is also stopping what you're experiencing as positive thoughts right now too. It's not just letting go of the negative. It's letting go of what you're actually holding on to and what you think is positive. You can't just kill the negative thoughts, try to hold on to something positive, and then you find peace. That's not how it works. You got to let go of everything. That's what's to silence your mind. If you just sit here and try to always think of a good place, you're always thinking of something that's creating something negative. If you're trying to hold on, it's like, this is good, this is where I want to be, you're holding on in the back of your head, like, well, then you know that this is bad. It's silencing what you think is good also, and to find a place in existence where I am who I am, I need nothing right now. That when you quiet your mind to that level, and then you open up an idea, and then like everything that you just said, describing that perfect mate, it becomes different, because you're not just have this old idea of what you used to want. It becomes a peaceful idea of warm embracing life.
It becomes an experience in the now moment. And you're absolutely right. If in my head I'm creating this imagery like I just spoke of, but I say to myself, that's what I want. Okay, that little phrase right there is what just screwed you. Because you just said, I want something that I don't already have.
It's got goosebumps.
Okay? And if I don't already have it, then I'm telling the universe that I don't want it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay?
You're reverse manifesting.
You're reverse manifesting, even though you're in a higher vibrational frequency.
Well, that makes it even more dangerous.
That makes it even more dangerous. It's very intricate, right? And the Buddha talks about living the path of the middle way. Right, and that's that path of neutrality you're talking about. Imagine a pendant hanging from a rope, right? And imagine that a time belt, right, of pendants coming across. And imagine those pendants as experiences in life. Well, as that pendant comes across, and it's something I don't like, and I try to push it away, what happens naturally after I'm done pushing? It comes crashing back into me. Okay, same thing. If that experience comes along and it's something I like, and I think that I don't have it already, and I want to hold on to it because I believe I might lose it, I grab that experience and attach to it and try to hold on to it. Well, what happens?
I mean, it's always naturally trying to pull
itself
itself away
from you. It's always naturally going to pull itself away from you. And so the idea is as the experience comes along, in that now moment, you experience it fully with your body, with your emotions, with your, if it's in the process of, a thought, then I love this and I'm so thankful for this and I'm so grateful that I experienced this, and I'm so grateful that experiences like this happen to me all the time.
That's
right?
Awesome.
That would be a correct way of experiencing a moment. And then when that moment passes, what you'll begin to realize is that you never lose the moment, because by not attaching to it, you give the universe the proper signal. Yes, that's what I am. And the universe begins to more frequently bring you experiences that create the same feelings, vibrations, and thoughts.
That is awesome, man. Well, we are running low on time. We got about 1 minute left, man. How can we wrap this up? This is a great conversation. And I want to do a second part of this. I feel like we just barely tapped into it.
We're just getting into it, and it's a beautiful concept. The best advice I have right now for you is just to repeat. Anytime a negative thought comes in, just immediately, and it's going to be a constant correction, but every time that you do it, it's a win. And those wins start to stack up. And so when a negative thought comes in, just look at it and go, hey, you know what? I'm not that thought. And I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for you. I love you. And when you say that, you're not saying it to anything else. You're saying it to yourself. Okay?
Right on.
And so practice that. Every time that negative thought comes in, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. We are the Diesel Daddies.
We are the Diesel Daddies, and spank your kids, because
It helps.
We have a rough upcoming generation. Spank your kids; it'll make them stronger. And that is it, boys and girls. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.